Yes, the relay on YouTube. Check it out. Lots of stories about me on there. All the boxing facts and info that you want in a very entertaining, educational manner. The relay. Check it out on YouTube.
Welcome to the motherfucking relay where we're covering today's top boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this. Earlier today, former two-division champion Jessica McCaskill officially announced her retirement via her social media with a lengthy caption that reads, Jessica McCaskill has made her last ring walk. I started boxing at 24 years old in St. Louis. I moved to Chicago and prayed to God to send me a trainer that was just as hardworking and motivated as I was.
She's a late starter in the sport. She started boxing at 24.
He sent me Rick Ramos. After 25 amateur fights, I turned pro in 2015. After 11 fights, I had all the belts. 36 fights at the age of 36, both amateur and pro. I've completely given my whole self to boxing. Now it's time to help my team the way they've helped me all these years. Thank you to the love of my life, Rick Ramos, for every sacrifice you've made for me, us, and our careers. We've made history. We've changed history. Thank you to my team for sweating and working every day alongside me. Thank you to my communities that have allowed me to do some good things with this platform. Thank you to my friends and fans. You are all a blessing. See you when I see you. The best way to think of Jessica and the best way to describe her is as an overachiever, because it's not customary, it's not often that a fighter who starts boxing at age 24 can climb the heights and compete at the level that Jessica McCaskill competed. A unified Ring Magazine champion at one weight and an undisputed champion in another, by taking on the very best and brightest fighters at or around those weights, grabbing every single opportunity with both hands, whether she was favored to win or not.
Jessica retires with a professional record of 12 wins with 4 losses and 1 draw and 5 recorded knockouts, encompassing the fighting spirit and grit of the Windy City, Chicago. Her fighting style adequately captured that fighting spirit by pressing forward and applying overwhelming pressure on her opponents round after round.
She won some fights, she lost some fights, but she can wholeheartedly say that she competed alongside the best and with the best in her time, in her era. Her story is the story of an overachiever, because it's not customary for a fighter who didn't start boxing till age 24, moonlighting as a boxer while simultaneously working as a banker, trained by a trader,
And managed.
I've often thought of Rick and Jessica as the dynamic duo of sorts, that they didn't have a big promotional push behind them or a decorated amateur record, Olympic team and just all of that kind of stuff, but they worked with what they had, and they really did manage to make the most of it.
Get the most out of it.
I think the time is right to retire. I think Jessica is making the right decision. You've noticed considerable slippage in Jessica's last 2 or 3 fights. She's definitely slowing down, and because of how rough and tumble, how physical and physically demanding her pressure style is, it's just not safe to keep going out there and taking punishment. She took a lot of punishment in her last fight with Lauren Price. She got hit a lot.
I think the silver lining is that Lauren really isn't that big a puncher, because if she were, given the amount of punches that she landed on Jessica, it could have been much worse.
It was one-way traffic, and fights like that, based on the landscape and just what's going on at 140, 147, 154, it wasn't going to get better for Jessica. So she is making the right call, retiring here and now.
I wish her all the best.
Several interactions with this talented, gutting, and gritty fighter, and she was always gracious with her time, always gracious with the fans.
Intelligent.
She didn't have the most polished style, but it was effective, and it worked for her. When you think about what the circumstances were, for her to have done as much as she did in roughly 17 pro bouts.
She beat Inoue Sanchez for the WBA title, beat the #1 super lightweight at the time in Erica Farias, beat the #1 welterweight at the time in Cecilia Brækhus.
Successfully defended her crown against Mexico's own Alma Ibarra and retired Alma.
Alma was looking like a dominant force, a force to be reckoned with, up until she ran into a wall named Jessica McCaskill.
She did very well for herself, and I am sad to see her go, in a manner of speaking. It's been fun watching her career progress, but at this point in the juncture, this is the right decision.
She don't need no more fights like the Price fight.
Congratulations to her and many well wishes in whatever her and Rick endeavor into moving forward.
It's been a hell of a run.
Best wishes. And Super Bantamweight news. Former unified Super Bantamweight champion MJ Akhmadaliev says, if it looks like a duck.
Mutajan Akhmadaliev avoided by Naoya Inoue.
Indio, California. Confounded.
Who is?
Perplexed.
Who is?
Concerned. Murajan MJ. Akhmadaliev is all of the above, as he is left to consider the events that will likely leave him deprived of landing his World Boxing Association mandatory title shot at Japan's 4th division and currently undisputed junior featherweight king Naoya Inoue.
You just received the Fighter of the Year award. You're considered one of the best pound-for-pound fighters, and you're avoiding this challenge? That's ridiculous, Akhmadaliev told Boxing Scene in a reaction directed towards Inoue.
Inoue, 31, is instead moving towards an early September title defense against veteran TJ Doheny, 26-4, 20 KOs, and his American promoter Bob Arum said too. Time undisputed champion Inoue will then likely move on to the featherweight division and try to clean out that weight class too. Akhmadaliev, 29, doesn't get it. The former unified junior featherweight champion won his belts in a 2020 split decision triumph over Danny Roman, who 9 months earlier defeated Doheny by majority decision, while Northern Ireland's Doheny has built his profile in Japan with 3 consecutive victories there. He is 37, and Akhmadaliev said it's imperative for a champion to honor his mandates, something he did 3 times as a champion.
I respect all fighters, but this fight is 4 or 5 years too late. Past Doheny's prime, Akhmadaliev said. It doesn't make sense that someone of Inoue's level would fight an old man who lost his title 5 years ago. When I beat the man who beat Doheny in my 7th professional fight, it's how Inoue's proving his greatness. That's just how he is.
Arum poured salt in the wound by telling Boxing Scene previously that no one knows who Akhmadaliev is.
It's just hardly an excuse because you just had Teofimo Lopez go out there with Steve Claggett, and nobody knew who Steve Claggett was, but you didn't have a problem making that fight, so why should you have a problem making this one? That rankled the trainer of Uzbekistan's Akhmadaliev, Joel Diaz. Look, everything was going well up until Bob Arum said that fight made no sense because MJ doesn't have a name. Diaz said Monday inside the gym where he trains Akhmadaliev. Look at who Arum's fighter Teofimo just fought. A guy I've never heard of in my life. Steve Claggett. I know why they're doing it, because they know the only fighter who they fear and who can beat Inoue right now is MJ. They won't fight MJ now. They want to keep their title and fight this easy fight against Doheny that's out there for them. But MJ beat Roman, and Roman beat Doheny.
Well, Inoue beat Tapales, and Tapales beat you.
So are you saying that Inoue shouldn't fight MJ Akhmadaliev?
I'm saying that while I understand Joel Diaz and MJ's anger, let's not kid ourselves here. Inoue doesn't have anything to fear in MJ Akhmadaliev. If they are swerving this fight, it's not out of fear of losing, it's that they don't want to deal with Matchroom. They have a schedule, they have a plan, and fighting MJ doesn't mean enough to them that they're going to alter that plan. That 2 things can be true at the same time.
And what 2 things are those?
That MJ Akhmadaliev does make for a better fight than TJ Doheny, but he would still lose, just like TJ Doheny.
It's not fear. I'm sorry, but Inoue and the way his career has been managed doesn't tell the story of a risk-averse fighter. And anyone jumping to the conclusion that they're afraid of MJ Akhmadaliev, yeah, you must have just been waiting for something negative to say. That's gotta be it.
In any event, Joel Diaz isn't happy.
Joel Diaz says MJ, he has heavy hands, he's very skillful. They know Inoue would be in tough against MJ, so they've decided to go the other way. Arum responded to that this past Tuesday
by saying I didn't know him. That doesn't mean he's not a good fighter. I have nothing against the kid. The point is, this is business, and they know that. Instead of going at Inoue for a purse bid and trying to extract money from him, they should have come and talked to Inoue's Japanese promoter, Mr. Akihiko Honda, and asked for the fight.
Politics, folks. It all boils down to politics. There were talks that Inoue's fight was going to end up on the undercard of Joshua versus Dubois in September.
Inoue's not an undercard fighter.
Guy who just packed a stadium with 55,000 people is going to be relegated to fighting on an undercard in his very next fight. Get real.
Come on.
Akhmadaliev's manager, Vadim Kornilov, said Inoue is going above and beyond avoiding Akhmadaliev by asking the WBA for a special permit to avoid Akhmadaliev.
He is good, but that's what being the best is about. Fighting the best available opposition, Kornilov said. It seemed that previous champion and the now victim Stephen Fulton was avoiding the Yota fight for undisputed. Now, Inoue wants to fight TJ Doheny instead. We are not in this fight for the money. We can try to do the fight in the UK or in Saudi Arabia if they feel this fight is not good enough for the Japanese fans.
Akhmadaliev lost his WBA and IBF belts in the April 2023 split decision defeat to Marlon Tapales of the Philippines, despite one scorecard favoring Akhmadaliev, 118-110. The others were 115-113 for Tapales. Tapales was then knocked out by Inoue in the 10th round of their 26th of December bout in Japan. Akhmadaliev, meanwhile, could be left to meet the WBA's second-ranked contender, Texas Ramon Cardenas, 25-1, 14 KOs, if the WBA acts to strip Inoue for not taking his mandatory defense.
I'm in touch with my management team. If Inoue's going to quit and vacate the title, I'll fight who's next. It's nothing new for me, Akhmadaliev said, but to say I have no name, I was the fastest ever, 8 fights into his pro career, to be a unified champion. All my fights were on a major TV network. It doesn't make sense. I'm fit, I'm ready.
My thoughts.
Everybody can't get what they want when they want it. Exactly when they want it. And as I always say, 2 things can be true at the same time. Do I think MJ makes for a better fight than TJ Doheny, than Sam Goodman?
I do.
And based on that, do I think Inoue is avoiding a hard fight with MJ?
I don't.
Is that why they're not doing it? Because they know it'll be a hard fight.
I disagree.
They're not doing it because they already made the TJ Doheny fight shortly after Inoue beat Neary. TJ Doheny was within proximity, he's already there, and he's already been fighting there. So they made that fight very quickly, so that by the time the WBA's order comes down,
They don't want to alter their plan.
boxing fans are always looking for a one-size-fits-all answer to every situation when every situation is different. And if there's any fighter that deserves some grace and some patience, it's gotta be Inoue.
Not for the knee-jerk reactions. I'm not going to start saying, yeah, Inoue is so scared of MJ when I think Inoue would beat MJ.
You want my honest opinion? That's my honest opinion. It's not about fear. It's not about avoiding a tough fight, because when has Inoue ever avoided tough fights?
That's not his MO.
So that all of a sudden you can cast aside everything he's done so far on the premise that he's so scared of MJ.
That's fucking bullshit, and you know it.
This is about schedules. This is about politics. This is about Matchroom potentially trying to win a purse bid that would see Inoue fighting on their platform and not Top Ranks. That's what it's all about.
But I don't think it's about fear. Maybe you do.
That hierarchy of thought relies on the principle that Inoue has something to be afraid of in MJ Akhmadaliev, and I don't think he does.
I think Inoue's been more dominant in 3 fights at 122 than MJ has his entire time there.
In 3 fights, Inoue unified this entire division. Why didn't you?
What was taking you so long?
So that when someone else comes along and does all the heavy lifting, they're supposed to be on your time, your schedule. It doesn't work like that, my friend. Men's welterweight news. World Boxing Council President Mauricio Suleiman has confirmed that they would approve Manny Pacquiao fighting Mario Barrios for the WBC welterweight world title at age 45. I do like that idea very much. I think Pacquiao can beat any fighter or be competitive with any fighter today.
Is it that? Or is it that you know Manny's name still might draw a crowd, allowing you to collect bigger sanctioning fees than you would off Mario's name value alone?
Boxing fans are sentimental, and that Manny might want to mount a comeback at age 45 to see himself crowned as the oldest world champion in boxing today. It might be enough to put some asses in some seats. Ironically, I actually give Manny a fighting chance against Mario Barrios. Even at this age, at age 45, there is a chance he could pull it off.
Manny is a better fighter than Mario Barrios ever was or will be, and I don't say that to slight Mario Barrios, but Manny is cut from a different cloth than most fighters. Most fighters today, including Mario.
Mario, who didn't look nothing special, nothing fantastic in his last fight opposite the ring, Fabio Maidana, earlier this year. Looked bang average.
Now, what most people are going to say is that in spite of Mario Barrios' limitations, the last time we saw Manny, which was something like 2 years ago, he looked old. He looked his age.
Opposite the ring, Yordenis Ugas. And I agree, Manny did look old with Ugas. But you have to factor in that Ugas wasn't who he was training for.
No.
Ugas was a late replacement. He was standing in for Spence, who pulled out of the fight 2 weeks out from the fight date. By then, all the work had already been done by Team Pacquiao, and they were preparing for a mid-range to inside combination puncher. What they got was a mid-range to outside jabber and mover who was working off the counter. Ugas wasn't what they were training for.
Condense it.
Manny did look old in his last fight, but a part of that has to be who he was fighting
And how he was fighting.
his opponent, Yordenis Ugas. Ugas doesn't fight like Barrios.
Yeah, but didn't Ugas get beat by Barrios?
Yeah, after Spence beat Ugas. After Spence beat Ugas, busted his eye all up, Ugas sat out for a year, then he fought Mario Barrios, and then he lost. Mario Barrios, unlike Manny Pacquiao, he had a full camp for Ugas. Manny didn't. So if Manny looked old against Ugas, you have to factor that into it.
That for Manny, Ugas was a late replacement.
And that Mario, even though he beat Ugas, he doesn't fight like Ugas. It's a different fight between Mario and Manny and Ugas and Manny. And against Mario, Manny stands a fighting chance because he doesn't have to chase him. He doesn't have to find him. If Mario were more of a moving target, that might further expose Manny Pacquiao's old age.
If Mario were gonna box him and move and jab, but that's not how Mario fights.
And even now, at 45 years old, I still think Manny Pacquiao punches harder than Mario Barrios. I didn't forget what Manny Pacquiao did to Ugas's eye. Badly swollen in a fight that Ugas won. That's what he did to a late replacement. What would he do to Mario with a full camp?
You like this fight?
I didn't say that. I'm just evaluating the probability of success for a 45-year-old Manny Pacquiao against this opponent. This specific opponent. If it were Brian Norman or Jaron Ennis, well, that would be something else. If it were Terrence Crawford,
Bad idea.
but Mario is limited enough that Manny stands a fighting chance. Emphasis on fighting chance. I wouldn't say he's the overwhelming favorite, but if he were going to beat any champion at welterweight, it would be Mario.
It's a title of opportunity.
Manny stands a fighting chance against Mario, and credit to him if he can come back at age 45 and still win a belt from someone so much younger than he is. Mario, in that situation, if he won, he would get no credit, but he would make money.
More than he'd make losing to either a Stanionis or Brian Norman, perhaps more than he'd make losing to Jaron Ennis. And he would lose to them.
Could just as easily lose to Manny, but he'll make a lot more money. Thus, without condoning or condemning, I see an opportunity for both men, for both Manny and Mario.